it's been very tough. And I know just how much I can deal with. I won't be at the SBC this year. I don't know when, if ever, I'll be at the SBC again.
I'm Bobby Gilstrap. Joining me today is 40-year veteran journalist Joni Hannigan, who recently interviewed SBC presidential candidate Randy Adams about the lack of transparency and secrecy in the Southern Baptist Convention. They both joined me today, and here is just part of our 2-hour conversation. Is your story really more about people not knowing, or is it more about people not acknowledging what's going on?
I think it's more about people not acknowledging. The information had been out there forever. I mean, it's a news article that mentions Dr. Ezell's lack of cooperation with the grand jury. It was in Kentucky Today, and it was repeated in other court news and so forth. So, I mean, there's factual evidence that it happened, and the information was about the resolution. Did the resolution go far enough? Does the resolution address the relationships? Like I mentioned, Dr. Moeller's relationship with CJ Mahaney, and him not until the last minute coming back and saying, oh yeah, that probably, in retrospect, that probably wasn't a good thing. I mean, you know, it's always after the fact. After the fact. Are we going to create a task force, you know, after the fact, after the secular world has already had an outpouring of what should we do about this? And so that was kind of like, is this a Band-Aid on a larger issue? In other words, are there other issues of not being transparent, of not being proactive, and not
Okay, so what you're saying is, if I'm understanding you right, what you're basically saying is that they're taking this almost as though it were a footnote and it's not a main story.
Well, and the proof of that is in any of the run-up to this election, how much attention was given to sexual harassment, sexual abuse, spiritual abuse. How much attention was given to it? I mean, all we have to do is listen to the other Q&As, look at the other interviews before the last few weeks, before, you know, Russell Moore sent out his explosive letter, which does not exempt him from responsibility. I mean, we are less than 2 years out, 3 years from that resolution, and we're not talking about it. And there are still cases that are coming to light. I mean, CJ Mahaney's church is still listed in the SBC directory as a cooperating Southern Baptist church. I mean, all of these things are still happening. I mean, and we're not talking about it. And which is why specifically, yes, specifically, I asked Randy Adams. I asked Randy Adams that question. What do you think? And I honestly was blown away by his answers. He
Okay,
was
well, let's bring
so
Randy
direct.
back in. Yeah, let's bring Randy back in. And Randy, you've kind of heard a little bit of our dialogue, and we've gotten highlights of Joni's story. What is your thought? She asked you this question directly in this interview she did with you, and that's what's in her article that she's put in the Truth in Crisis, as she's put that up. No, I didn't say that right, did I, Joni?
The truth is in Christ.
That's right. It has the word is. Truth is in crisis. So Randy, respond to us a little bit about what she has now kind of said, that it's really not about the people knowing the information, but about acknowledging it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that Joni's story highlights, I think, and the story particularly about Kevin Ezell, is that, well, to me, one thing is that when she really went back and retold the story of how he did not testify against an accused child molester, who, by the way, was convicted of, I think, 7 acts of child molestation. And when he chose not to testify, which was in Kentucky his legal right not to do so, it was reported on at the time. When Joni brought that back and just mentioned that as something that maybe should be acknowledged, that the clergy penitent privilege shouldn't perhaps exist at all, rather than deal and acknowledge her argument, acknowledge maybe that is a problem, he attacked her through his spokesman by threatening to go after her for libel, which of course it wasn't libelous. But the point was to shut her mouth. The point was basically to reach out and give her a pop and put her on notice that if you do that, I can threaten you, I can intimidate you. And they requested that she take out of her article the information about him refusing to testify in that case. Joni did not do that.
Okay, yeah, let me interrupt just a second to make sure we have clarity. So what you're saying, Joni said it, you said it, that Kevin Ezell did this, but he didn't personally, but a staff member did this basically on his behalf, is what you're assessing. Am I accurate with both of you? And that's what's happening? Okay.
Literally hours after I posted that on the Truth is in Crisis website, I received a text from the communications director, VP at NAM.
Okay, Joni, and I think that's really important to be real clear on what you just said. You posted this on the website, okay, and you got a text. You said within hours. Okay, now when did you post? And of course, we can go back and validate all that. But when did you post? And then why is that odd that you got a text message so quickly after you posted your article?
Well,
and then after I want you to respond, but then I want Randy to respond to what you have said.
Yeah, I mean, because this person I know routinely, and NAM routinely monitors my social media and my website, because I've gotten other texts from them that have said, do you want to comment, or do you need clarification on that? Like I tweeted something before about, why did NAM have to change the name of Southern Baptist Disaster Relief to Send Relief, because that doesn't help us with public relations or something like that. And literally I was on an airplane and I got as soon as we landed, I got a tweet back that said, talk to me about that, or a DM or something, because I had the phone number of this person, and we they're the PR person, communications person. So we texted back and forth about details and things like that. So that wasn't unusual. What was unusual was threatening me with libel. And I mean, I'll never forget it. I was sitting at the Loop with my family. I had been working for days on this article because I didn't know what I wanted to say, what I wanted to do. And then I decided that would be my focus. So literally sitting there, and I mean, I went white, I went hot, I went cold. I looked at it, I was like, this is unbelievable. I can't believe this. And you know what? It did, Brother Adams. After having just a teeny bit of confidence to get back out there and get on my feet, it did shut me down. It shut me down. That was the last time I went to the SBC, because I said, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Now, some may be saying, well, what's she doing now then? Well, it's been very tough. And I know just how much I can deal with. I won't be at the SBC this year. I don't know when, if ever, I'll be at the SBC again.
Okay, Joni,
I'm still a member of an SBC church.
Right. Yeah. Well, and what I want to do before Randy, you comment, you actually put a screenshot of the text message you got. So
Yeah.
let me read that. I'm not going to ask you to read it, but if it's okay with you, I'm going to read the text that you published. It's on your website, and this is what hit so impactful for you at that point after this. And then Randy, if you'll comment after I share this. But the text basically came to you, and again within hours after publishing this on your website. It says, Joni, I think you've put yourself in a potentially libelous situation. I am asking you and encouraging you in the strongest way possible to remove what you have posted about Kevin. I wish you had called to discuss this with me ahead of time. Randy, your comment.
Well, obviously that's intimidation, that's a threat on a really very serious issue. I mean, as we know, we're now discussing sexual abuse, covering up sexual abuse in the Southern Baptist Convention. The executive committee itself may be under investigation for covering up sexual abuse or investigations into particular matters. And here we have an example of the leader of one of our entities trying to squelch an article, and not just squelch an article that Joni had written, but silence her and intimidate her. And the thing about it is, I know that he, Dr. Ezell, and NAM has the ability to do that. For example, next week, I think on Thursday, after the Southern Baptist Convention ends, NAM will be making arguments to the Supreme Court of the United States that they have the right, because of the First Amendment, to defame the character of a pastor or a minister who's affiliated in some way in the Southern Baptist Convention. They can interfere with their employment, tortious interference with their employment. They can defame them. And NAM is saying they should have legal impunity, legal protection against any lawsuit if, in fact, they do that toward a minister. Now, we know that's happened. What happened to Joni is an interference of sorts, because then what they can do is they can put the word out, don't work with this person. And they do that. For example, the lawsuit regards Will McCraney in NAM. And one of the particulars of that lawsuit is that Kevin Ezell himself called his good friend, Jimmy Scroggins, pastor in Florida. Jimmy Scroggins, who, by the way, approved on his own authority $1 million compensation package to Tom Rainer when he left Lifeway. And Kevin was upset that Will McCraney was going to teach a breakout in a pastor's conference in Florida. Now, Dr. Ezell, the allegation is that he was complicit in McCraney being fired in Maryland, Delaware as a state exec. So he's fired from that job. He's seeking employment. He's trying to feed his family. He's asked to teach a breakout on evangelism, which is his expertise. He taught evangelism for 11 years in New Orleans Seminary. He's asked to teach that breakout. And that so threatens Dr. Ezell that he tries to prevent him from teaching the breakout and calls Jimmy Scroggins to try to get that killed. So that just gives you an idea of the length to which he will go in order to intimidate or block the employment of someone that he has a personal issue with. And by the way,
Randy,
it's happened to Joni, it's happened to Will, it's happened to others as well.
I just want to ask that question.
Hmm.
Are you aware of it happening to many others? Because some would say, no, it's an isolated case. So are you aware that this kind of thing has happened at other times? In other words, is this a pattern?
It is, and I'm aware of people unwilling to speak in public on issues like this for fear that their employment opportunities will be blocked. The other thing that's has been of routine use is non-disclosure agreements. So when someone leaves the employment of NAM, not everybody, but many who, when they leave, they sign a non-disclosure agreement, preventing them from saying anything that could be interpreted as disparaging toward NAM or toward NAM leadership. So they use non-disclosure agreements to shut down whistleblowers, and then potential whistleblowers are fearful of saying something because phone calls can be made to a church that may be considering them as pastor. and they can say, you don't want to consider this person. I mean, that in effect is what they threatened Joni with, that kind of intimidation. And it worked in part because Joni wasn't getting, after that, the opportunities to work that she had before that. And we know, in fact, that's the allegation toward Will McCraney. Will McCraney has not had some of the opportunities because NAM has tried to intervene in those situations. Now, NAM lost an appeal to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in that case, even though the ERLC claimed that the Southern Baptist Convention is a hierarchy, and NAM claimed that they have absolute rights and privileges to interfere in the employment of another person in Baptist life. And they said they even have a right to defame the character of another person in Baptist life. They claim they didn't defame McCraney's character, but they said they could have, and they have First Amendment protection. Now, what Southern Baptists need to know is NAM has millions and millions of dollars of discretionary income every year. They can buy a lot of rent. They do. They give money to a lot of people. There are dozens and dozens of pastors who receive a monthly check from NAM to be an ambassador of NAM. There are others who don't have the title of ambassador who are receiving money as well. But these ambassadors connect with the larger churches in the convention. They build those relationships. They can run interference if NAM has a problem in their state. And just as Joni was intimidated and threatened through that text message, just as McCraney was, they can do that to anybody. And what they're asking for the Supreme Court to give them is legal protection to do exactly that. Southern Baptists, if they don't understand how dangerous this is, they better wake up.